All right, so I want you to close your eyes and just think for a second. You spent $1,000 to get 20 leads on HomeAdvisor or Angi. And by the time that you've called all 20 of them, none of these guys have picked up the phone. Well, that must be because the leads are absolutely terrible, right? Well, that's not exactly the case, but don't worry, because by the end of the video, you're going to know exactly how to win more jobs from HomeAdvisor and Angi leads by using the system that you can implement into your company today. Before we can build a plan to close more of these aggregated leads, we need to kind of break down why the leads are so difficult to close in the first place. And that comes down to three main reasons. The first one is that these are very, very competitive leads. When a homeowner actually fills out a form on Angi or HomeAdvisor, their information has obviously been sold to multiple contractors, but it doesn't actually stop there, because this same homeowner is often in so much pain that they could have filled out a form through, a Google ad or something of that nature. So that means that even if you call that lead quickly, you're likely going to be one of maybe 3 to 5 calls they're getting within just a matter of minutes. Now, this lead is hot, but it's overwhelmed and you're kind of in this race. So that's something that you need to consider. The second reason is because they get a flood of responses, they get turned off quickly, because we know that every contractor sounds the same. It's the same, hey, we saw your request, just wanted to follow up. They have the same voice, they ask the same questions, everyone has the same pitch, and by the third call, this homeowner kind of just blurs everything out. And even if you are the best option, if you're third, fourth, or fifth, you could just be tuned out. So it's not about just being fast. You need to make sure that you actually stand out right away. And then the third reason is simply just a mindset problem. A lot of these companies, especially smaller ones, believe that the lead quality is low, but let's just kind of, cut the crap in that area. What we have to remember is that HomeAdvisor and Angi and House and those types of companies, they're worth billions of dollars each. And that wouldn't happen if the leads were crap. So don't just kind of spend your time blaming the leads. You need to start actually looking at how you and your team are working them. So now that we understand the problem, let's actually talk about how we can increase that close rate. Now, the first thing in that side of things that we need to remember is that these leads are more transactional than usual. They're oftentimes, very price sensitive, as you know, and as we spoke about, they're overwhelmed. So it's not as if they kind of came through a referral and they know who you are yet. So your process needs to be a bit more aggressive than if you got kind of an inbound or a referral lead. So this is where our 4-day conversion window system comes into place. And this is where, in my opinion, 80% of your leads should be converting if you're doing this process right. Now, during that 4-day period, there are a few keys to focus on. The first is that in every single message that you send, it should include the name of the rep and also the name of your company, so that these leads actually don't forget who's getting in touch with them. The second is that you want to focus on using trust signals, whether that's project photos, reviews, ratings. You want to make sure that the customer knows that you guys are the company that they can trust, because that's going to actually separate you from the competition. And then during this 4-day conversion window, from a mindset perspective, I want you to kind of focus on having controlled aggression. You're not spamming these leads, but you're staying top of mind when they're actually kind of comparing who to go with. Once we're through that kind of initial 4-day push, if it's done right, as we said, the majority of your bookings will come through that period. But that doesn't mean that you actually stop the process, because there's still huge potential in that kind of next phase. So coming into week 2, this is where we want to kind of pull back slightly, but making sure we're keeping momentum. So we recommend calling every 48 hours. And at this point is where you want to start rotating your numbers. If you keep calling from the same number, people are obviously going to start ignoring you. So try and get, a couple of local numbers to give yourselves the best shot. You should also send an email on every other day with more trust building assets. So that's going to be review dumps. It's going to be FAQs. You're going to have before and after galleries. And again, these are going to start to build that familiarity and trust with the brand. And we only recommend that you send one single text during that second week. And the reason for that is because in the long run, SMS is going to be by far the most valuable communication channel that you have. And once you're marked as spam, it's going to be game over for you with that lead. So you want to keep it clean and respectful in that kind of side of things. Going into week 3, we want to let your emails do most of the heavy lifting. So now we're going to move into trust and value emails, right? So you're going to send 2 to 3 of these per week, and that can include other things like client stories, project walkthroughs, design insights, just general educational value, right? The purpose of this is to position your company as the one that they're going to go with once they're actually ready. And then finally, in that kind of final week of the 30-day period, we now want to kind of ease into that long-term nurturing cadence. So that's going to be, 1 to 2 emails per week. These should be kind of focused on value, maybe seasonal tips or, a link to a specific project gallery, maybe just a quick, case study here and there. And again, we want to stay visible without actually overwhelming the client, right? Just like that, that's that kind of 30-day period. But it's important that you remember that just because someone's not ready now doesn't mean they're not valuable to you. So after that 30-day period, it's incredibly important that we move these leads into that kind of long-term nurture flow. So whether that's going to be, a monthly or bi-weekly newsletter, project updates, whatever kind of nurturing system you have, you need to make sure that's active, because in the long term, the real problem isn't that your leads are cold, it's because your follow-up is. So when it comes to these aggregated leads, we want to be kind of structured, measured, and aggressive early on. And then on the back end, we want to make sure that we're persistent, professional, and calculated as they kind of move through the different phases. And if your team uses this playbook every time, you won't actually need more leads. You'll just close more of the ones that you already have, right? So if this video helped, please give a like and a subscribe, and stay tuned in to more videos on how to help home improvement companies improve their sales systems and close more deals.